Happy Thursday, January 27th, everyone, and welcome into another edition of the Unreasonable Odds podcast. It is championship week in the NFL. There are 3 meaningful football games left this year, and then it is all done. So that means not all that much to talk about anymore, but my co-host Steve Buchanan is here. If you're watching on YouTube, you see a reoccurring guest joining us, Mr. Dave Sharapan, sportsbook consig, and you see atop his majestic head, a beautiful DraftKings sportsbook lid. The man is known for his hats. He wears hats everywhere. Every time we have him on the podcast, you know, we have some different logo things here, some things we can and can't show. We have to ask Dave to change his hat all the time. Well, somebody, whoever it was a great, great person, was nice enough to give Dave some hats that he can now just wear right on the Unreasonable Odds podcast when he makes his appearances. No problem. Dave, how you doing?
Boys, good morning. Excuse me.
Oh boy. You're getting choked up because you got that hat.
You got me a little choked up. I really did. I got to tell you, I mean, this thing turns heads everywhere I go. So I've been wearing it all over town. You got to coordinate. So I went with the green under jersey here a little bit. Logo restrictions aside, this is definitely one of the best ones you got. So, you know, you guys make the call, get it together, get on the show, get your hat on, and let's talk football. I mean, there's other things going on, Jules. Like, you know, there's basketball, you know, that Rhode Island Rams team. We can't figure that team out. And like, you know, there's NBA, there's NHL, but this week it's championship week. The sad part for me is that, you know, after it's all done Sunday, we got 2 weeks to talk about one game.
Yep.
And we got 7 months to talk about where Sean Payton is going to go coach or where Aaron Rodgers is going to go play.
Yep.
And I just want to talk about the games. Let me talk about the games.
We'll get to March Madness, NBA playoffs, hopefully baseball.
Yes.
If they don't play baseball, Steve might be out of a job this summer.
Yeah, I'll be fired.
It's going to be okay. There's going to be baseball. It may not start right on time, but there's going to be baseball.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. You heard it from the man. And yes, I did bet. As our producer Samir slacks us, there's always KBO. I'm not getting back into KBO.
No, I can't do it, bro.
I've been there. I bet. So the Rhode Island Rams were 8-0 at home. They had a 15-point lead as 15-point favorites on Saturday and lost outright. So I bet him in the bounce back spot. Fishy line, pick him against Richmond at home. Richmond's the better team. Shepard, second leading scorer, out for URI. It jumps to Richmond -2. I bet URI. I said they're going to bounce back at home. They went up 15. They lost by 8. That one stung as a bettor and a proud alum.
Buck, do you or Samir want to tell them that we're talking about football, not about the Rhode Island Rams? Like,
listen, you brought him up. You brought him up. You gave me an opening, so that is your fault.
Somebody.
We're past that. All right. Last thing before we get into football. What's the weather like in Vegas right now, Sharapan?
Ooh, we got a nice little forecast. Cool in the mornings, perfect in the afternoon. So high 30s, low 40s in the morning. We're supposed to get up to 58 or something today. We got practice tonight. It'll be freezing. We got a weekend tournament this weekend here in Vegas. So we're here playing softball, baseball, bro, all this stuff going on. You guys shoveling snow this weekend? I heard you.
Yeah.
What's the over under for the inches of snow that you're supposed to get?
15.5.
Yeah. So it depends.
Over or under?
Samir spot on goes 15.5.
Man,
it depends where you are. Boston.
Who made that number?
Who made that number? Me. Look, there might be no baseball. I got to figure out what to do in the summer. I got to figure out something. Weather odds maker.
Hey,
I'm a South Shore guy. We get more here. We get hit harder by the storms. I'm looking more at like 18, maybe. Here's that's what I was gonna say. We woke up 6 degrees here on Thursday, and now we're gonna have a Friday night to Sunday morning snowstorm. Mm-hmm. Steve and I are expected in studio on Sunday to do the sweat from downtown Boston after 36 hours of snow. It stops at 4 a.m. We got to be in there at like 8 a.m.
Who's driving?
Wake up at 6 a.m. to clear cars and shovel driveways. We'll see if it happens. If you see us remote on the sweat on Sunday, those watching, you know it got bad here. All right. That's your weather talk. That's your Rhode Island Rams talk.
Excellent.
Now it's football talk. Steve, it took like 3 minutes. It's a little icebreaker. Start the podcast. Go ahead. You haven't spoken much. Why don't you steer the truck for these football games?
Well, I'm very excited to hear how much Dave is going to be liking the Bengals this week, because that's the right side in this game against the Chiefs. I don't know. Everybody is on the Chiefs. What he did at the Bills last week, miraculous. Everybody hates his wife. He hates his brother because of how they celebrated.
Yep.
A little over the top.
Yep.
But I love the Bengals this week. I've loved the Bengals all season long. I keep betting them. Here's a heartbreaker. Last week, both Julian and I had a 2-game money line parlay. Oh, I'm sorry, Julian didn't have this, but he bet on the Packers. But I had a money line parlay, Bengals Packers. Got the Bengals half, so now I'm cruising. I'm already counting that as a win, right?
Yep.
Then the Packers just do whatever they do after that first drive. It was an absolute heartbreaker.
Yeah.
But if any team has not done me wrong at all this season, it's been the Bengals. So
Yes.
I'm not going to change it this week. I love them. This line has not moved at all. It has been basically sat at 7. I know it touched 6.5 briefly a couple of days ago, but it's been sitting at 7 for the majority of the time. I love everything about the Bengals this week, and I think people aren't giving them enough credit. If Joe Burrow gets sacked 9 times and still performs as well as he does, that says more about Joe Burrow than anything.
No question. The only thing, Steve, that worries me, and I'm with you too. I think the Bengals +7 is the bet if you have to pick a side in this game. Only because I think they're going to be able to trade scores for enough time to keep it close.
Sure.
They can win the game. I mean, this would ruin everybody's party except for, Western Ohio and the Cincinnati fans.
Yeah.
Maybe Northern Kentucky too. There's some people there that like the Bengals, but otherwise, otherwise this is going to ruin everybody's Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl party.
Yep.
The defense.
Sure.
We got it. I mean, we saw the Bills and Josh Allen play a perfect game. Played a perfect game and lost. Okay. I mean, I don't know if the Bengals can just make that one stop that's going to require them to win the game. The number is perfect. I mean, you see this number as an odds maker, in the book, you're not going to move it. Like every time you move it to 6.5, bad guy comes in to play it on the Chiefs. Every time you go to 7.5, it's like sending a bat signal in Gotham City, and a bad guy comes in and hammers the Bengals. So it's easy. This is the easy part. As you get down to the end, the numbers don't move much, and you have 2 choices or 4 choices this weekend for sides. You got to pick somebody.
Right.
8 or 9 out of 10 people are picking the Chiefs.
Yep.
So I'm all right with that. But what do you think about the total? The total is the story in this game. That's where I'm at.
That was going to be my question for you next, because we saw what happened in that Bills Chiefs game, and we know this is going to be a game about the quarterbacks. We saw him play in week 17. It was 34-31. It feels like an over game. My only question would be, are there better bets than betting over 54.5 as it stands right now on DraftKings Sportsbook? My number one concern, and I said this to Steve on Tuesday's podcast, although that was, we saw what we saw on Sunday night with the Bills and the Chiefs, if the Chiefs get a stop on whatever that was, 4th and 13, when it was 26-21, if the Chiefs grind that out, that could end 26-21.
Yeah.
And now you're under. Instead, we get another 500 yards and 30 points or whatever we got from that point on.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. So what, it sounds like you're going over 54.5 though here.
The total requires a perfect trip, right? Like, to use a horse racing analogy, when a jockey gets on a horse and drives him around perfectly, gets a perfect trip. Okay. You need a perfect trip, but do you? And in the book, I always used to say, when I saw 55, I called it the speed limit game. So, you have to speed over the speed limit to get there. It's hard, but based on what I saw, I mean, the bad guys have already spoken. They're playing this under. They played this under last week. The sharp
and they
side,
weren't wrong. They weren't necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
didn't go
but
that
it
way.
just, you can't control it. And I think a very similar thing is going to happen. I think that when we just saw this thing January 2nd, finished 34-31, the total closed 51 in a game in Cincinnati. Chiefs -3.5 closing number, 51 closing number. Bengals win outright. The game finishes 34-31. Last team with the ball wins. A lot of times the rematch doesn't go exactly like that. I don't know if I have to pick a side in the total. I'm taking over. I just think the way the game now, you got to see who's officiating. Maybe they're going to let stuff go a little bit, but I think with the calls being made that they're being made, the Bengals defense being not as good as the Bills, and the Bills got, torched. I think the side is over, but I know, on DraftKings, there's a zillion props this weekend. And like all the prop guys I know had the best day of the season last week on Saturday, the pros, because they all bet under. And those games were boring and all under, except the sack total on Burrow went over. But Sunday, they got destroyed because everything went over. It's way more fun to bet over. So I know you probably got a prop or two in his game or something that's much better than the total in the game.
So I a lot of times in these Chiefs game, I think are going to go over. I always know that the Chiefs are going to score. So a lot of times I look at the Chiefs team total.
Yeah.
I did that on Sunday. It was 27.5. Cashed it. But like I said, again, if that fourth down is converted, they could land on 26 and go under. This week I can't. It's 30.5 with -140 to the over right now on DraftKings. So the over for the game is better than the Kansas City team total, although I'm confident Kansas City's going to score. Last I looked, and let me get into the player props.
Well, let me throw one out there real quick while you're getting that.
Go ahead.
So the longest reception for Jamar Chase is set at 28.5. Big number, right? It's a big number.
That is a big
last
number.
time.
The last time these teams played was just a few weeks ago. Joe Burrow threw the ball 20 plus yards 7 times in that game. He completed 5 of them for 191 yards, which is an average of 27.3 yards per pass attempt.
Wow.
2 of them were for touchdowns. He destroys this secondary. Why? Because he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league versus man coverage. The Chiefs run man coverage constantly. In those scenarios, Burrow's averaging 9.2 yards per pass attempt. He absolutely destroys this type of coverage. So put all that together, like I'm taking overs on Burrow on passing yards, on Chase's longest reception. There's so many here because Burrow should thrive in this game against the secondary.
I love that angle, Steve. That's phenomenal. I'm going to have to look all that stuff up myself because I tell people all the time, like, there's a big menu, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to focus and narrow it down to 1 or 2 things to really kind of be successful. Now, it's kind of an all or nothing proposition because if, he gets dinged up and knocked out of the game, you don't win anything. Or, so spread it out and obviously, branch up, but like attack, immediately what you said makes me go, all right, I'm going to go look at Burrow's yards. I'm going to look at his completions. I'm going to look at his attempts. I'm going to look at his longest pass. I'm probably not going to look at his rushing yards. Joe don't really take off. I don't have to worry about that one.
Right.
But Mahomes is one that I would be looking at rushing yards. Keeps going over. The guys putting the numbers up at DraftKings aren't adjusting it. He's going over with 1 rush. So
he went over his prop total last week in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, with 1 run, I believe. I think he got a 30-yard run or something. What was his total? 28.5, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's bumped up to 29.5 for this week. So they knew they got burned. So now they put it up a yard for this week.
So Burrow passing yards 285.5.
Ooh.
Mahomes passing yards 289.5. Special on DraftKings. Burrow and Mahomes combined 600 plus yards plus 150.
600 plus yards.
You're telling me they're both right? Burrow's 15 under 300 on his prop. Mahomes 11 under 300 on his prop. If you like them both over, are they going to combine for an additional, what is that? 24 yards to get you plus 150? I kind of like the prop, and they work together because if it's going to be this shootout game and they're both passing,
right?
We like what we saw from Allen and Mahomes at the end of the game. If it's going to be a one-score game and you're both passing trying to score, that it just works well together for both of them.
And the prop is good if you go 350 and 250, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
One could go. You could split you could play both overs and split them, but if they both go under 600, you would win your plus 150 combo prop.
I like that.
And not only that too, but if you like the over in this game, they're not going to hit the over if they're going to be running the ball. They're going to be hitting the over because these guys are passing a ton. So if you like the over, you have to like both of these guys, right? Because it's not. I don't think it's going to be a lopsided game. Like it's not going to be the Chiefs win, 40-14 or something like that. Like I think this is going to be a close game, and that's why the line really isn't moving as much at all like we saw last week. There was a lot of movement last week,
right?
So if you like the over. Under 300 yards for both of these guys? Come on. I'm taking
it seems like a big asking. Plus, the thing that I think we may be overlooking in this game a little bit is the big play capability. I mean, Hill can take a 7-yard slant and take it to the house, but Mixon can split, through a hole and take it to the house. Like, so you may not get quantity wise a lot of running plays, but I mean, either guy is capable of taking a screen pass 50 yards for a touchdown. So I think it's really interesting to like the prop market to kind of think outside the box a little bit in that regard.
Yep. Love it.
One of the ones that I was referring to that I might like better than the total that I was looking for and better than Chiefs team total is just Mahomes over 2.5 passing touchdowns is plus 110. So you're just asking Mahomes.
He threw for more than that in the first matchup, right? He threw,
I think he threw 3 touchdowns. Mahomes threw for I know he cashed it last week, but it needed the one to Kelsey. He threw for 3 last week,
right?
5 against Pittsburgh, only 2 against Cincy.
It was only 2.
So that would have lost in the last matchup.
Okay, that's a good number. I mean, like that's.
He's gone over in 4 of 6, 4 of his last 6.
Okay.
It's a good number.
Plus 110 on the over.
I just feel like if you're getting that over, or if you're getting the Chiefs team total over, you're going to get 3 from Mahomes.
Yeah, but Jules, they do that play where, when they get down close in the red zone and Andy Reid puts the tight end underneath or he flips the shuffle pass is a pass.
We're not going to see that this week because it so miserably failed in such a big spot last week. That was the dumbest call of the weekend and almost cost the Chiefs the game.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if they run that again rather than the Mahomes flip. They do the flips. Mahomes just flips it forward.
Does that count as a pass?
Those are passes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I will be shocked if we see the stupid put the tight end under center when you have Mahomes.
Yeah, don't do that, Andy. Come on.
I don't know why they did that. They almost lost the game.
I don't know why.
Now, I think it wouldn't be considered a pass if it's behind the line of scrimmage, but I think because he's doing it forward, that's why it's technically a pass.
Okay. Well, I mean, that gives you that option. I get nervous, when they get down there, he does those different things. So you may get beat, like if you're in a fantasy league, you dread those because he gets down there and he doesn't do what got him down there. Plus they don't have that, I guess it's Kelsey, that red zone, just throw it up and go get it guy. It is Kelsey. It's really not Hill and it's not Hartman and it's not Pringle. So
they have a lot of short guys on that team. That's a problem.
They can run though, Steve.
Yeah,
they can run, man.
So all right. For me, I'm not touching the Bengals. This is, if you made me bet it, it's the Chiefs, but it's Chiefs as a teaser leg for me, I think is the safe one. Because when it comes down to it, it's not a hot take. But like you said, the number's right and it's right on 7 and it could just land there and you push. But what I am confident in, and I love Joe Burrow, but what I am confident in is that this is when the stage gets a little too big. Not that he's going to play poorly, but that it's going to be more like, and I keep using these 80s, 90s NBA comparisons of the Pistons had to beat the Celtics after losing a bunch of times. And then the Pistons had to lose to whatever it was. Lakers. The Bulls had to lose to the Pistons a bunch of times before they could get over the hump. The Bengals Joe Burrow is going to make some Super Bowls. It feels like to me. I don't think it's going to be this one. I think you're running into Patrick Mahomes in hosting his 4th straight AFC Championship game. If someone makes a mistake, if one person makes a mistake, it's probably going to be Burrow on the road. If one person has to make the big play, better chance of Mahomes making that big play. It feels like the Chiefs just have too much. They've been there, done that, and this is going to be a great learning experience for the Bengals to get some of the money.
Oh, look at
Burrow glasses.
What do you think of my Joe Burrow glasses? What do you think of that?
I love it.
That ain't
I
bad.
might need to get myself a pair.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet. I want to see Joe Burrow cover. I think it's
You want to see him
great
cover?
story.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm okay with him winning. A lot of people aren't. But the book will be okay.
Only my bankroll doesn't want to see him there. My heart does.
The Bengals as road underdogs this season.
I know.
We saw last week. 5-1 as road underdogs, covering by an average of 10.4 points.
Come on, Joe Burrow.
Let's go, baby.
Those are great numbers. Just tell me how many of those were an AFC Championship game at Arrowhead.
Oh, none of them, Jules. We know the answer to that question.
Yes, it was a rhetorical question.
Oh,
Stupid.
I didn't know that. Put that in the notes. I didn't see that in the notes. I thought you wanted an answer to the question.
NFC, I think, is much more difficult. A lot of people really like the Rams. Just say the Rams are the better team. They're going to run right over the Niners, except for the part where the Niners have beaten them outright 6 straight. And people say, well, that number doesn't matter. What about Stafford? Okay, let's look at the 2 this year, 31-10, and then an overtime win on the road. The Niners, and I'm not a Shanahan guy, but the Niners seem to take care of business against McVay and the Rams. The problem is Stafford in the offense, Cooper Kupp, OBJ's stepped up, Higbee, they're going to make some plays against this 49ers defense. It's going to come down. This game comes down to line play, like old school gritty football for me, because how's Bosa going to be? He's gotten dinged up in the playoffs. He needs to get in there and disrupt Stafford. And then on the other end, that D line that just, you know how you beat Brady in the playoffs, D line, get after him. They did that. The Rams. Can they do that against a much better San Francisco offensive line who's going to have the goal of running it down your throat? They've won an NFC Championship game before with Jimmy Garoppolo attempting 8 passes. Like, they're capable of that. I don't think it's going to happen against the Rams, but that it's been done. So this, for me, I'm not betting either game individually. This, for me, I actually teased the Chiefs with the Niners up to 9.5, get through some key numbers. And I also, I got these, you can do it at 6.5 too. So I teased when the Rams were at 3, the Chiefs down to -0.5 point just to win the game. And I'm breaking my own rule here. You never tease through 0, but because I have the other side teased, I have the Rams teased to +3.5.
Oh, look at you.
So I am confident enough in the Chiefs winning the game that I want to give myself a window in the NFC Championship. That is a 12-point window of Niners +9.5 and Rams +3.5.
I'm shocked by that.
Okay.
You're shocked that I did that?
Yes.
Yep. It's just, I don't want to have, I'm confident in the Chiefs. I don't want to have all my chips on the Niners or all my chips on the Rams in this game. I just don't feel that way. So I want to watch the Chiefs win, and then I'm going to be a miserable man on my couch with 2 feet of snow outside, rooting for a window in the next game. I don't want a team. I want a window. Extremely boring, probably torturous to myself. But I just don't see this game being, a lot of people think the Rams are going to blow out. Third meeting divisional matchup, I just see it being a little more of a grinder now. The Pats and Bills met for a third time in the postseason, and the Bills blew them out. The Rams and these Rams and Cardinals met for a third time this season. The Rams blew them out. So I'm probably an idiot, but Dave, talk to me about the NFC Championship game.
You're doing what a lot of people do when they don't really know. Like, you don't feel confident in either side. So you
nobody
find
knows.
a way.
Nobody knows Squidoosh, right?
Right, exactly. And you know that you still want action. You're just trying to find a way to get it.
Well, I'll say I do know one thing. I'm saying that I know the Chiefs are going to win, because if the Chiefs lose, then I'm just sitting there with nothing.
and then you don't have to worry about the odds when Joe Burrow wins. You won't even have to worry about the odds of the back end.
If Joe Burrow wins, I just have to worry about the money I've lost.
Right, exactly. And then figure out what your same game teaser will be or what you can do with the second game. That's the aggravation that could happen. But no,
Niners in the under.
This is a great game. This is going to be, but a different type of great game. This is going to be that Keith Jackson used to call him a slobber knocker. This is going to be one of those ones that it's going to be a defensive game. And I thought the best bet of the game was the under. I saw 46.5. I think I saw 47 first number. I was like, man, that's too high. It's going to come down. And that's the only way. That's the only thing that's moved all week is the total. It's coming down. And I mean, I had the under in the Rams game last week. I thought that was under. It was 20-3 at halftime. Yeah. Yep. and then he snapped the ball 35 yards over the guy's head. And we got back in the game. Then Evans is open and he's 20-7-20. All right, it's going to still stay under because I got 48. I did the right thing. I had the right number. Oh, no, it's not. Fumble Akers. Sue rips the ball out, and we got a touchdown. And I'm like, this can't be. I mean, this is how this total is going to go over. I think it's a field goal game. I would take the points with the Niners. Okay. But you said it comes down to line play. Always comes down to line play in football. But it also comes down to this. Jimmy G throws that pick that's going to cost his team. The same thing, though, on the other side. Stafford could throw that pick that cost his team. Bet both guys to throw an interception. I think that way, if they do, you at least cash a ticket. Like those numbers are fair. You don't even have to lay an egregious price. You can get plus money, I think, on Stafford. So you're right. The Niners' success with Jimmy G not even throwing a touchdown pass. They're 9-2, 3-0 in the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo not throwing a touchdown pass. We can win the game. We don't even have to score a touchdown offensively.
Right.
We'll block a punt. We'll kick a couple field goals and we're good.
Well, that's another thing. I think that people feel like now you have to fade the Niners because they still were the wrong side last week. Like they were, the Packers should have been better, but the Niners even still were the wrong side last week. If Packers specialty, like you have to handicap 10 points for Packers special teams, I guess, minus 10 points is what it cost them. So a lot of people feel like the Niners were the wrong side in that game. We should have won our Packers bets, I feel like. But now because we didn't, it doesn't mean, all right, got to take the Rams, got to go against the Packers the next week. You got to reassess. It's a new divisional matchup in my mind.
Steve,
I know Steve's all over the Rams.
When you look at this game, do you feel better about it if it's 3? Like this 3 or 3.5? Is 3.5 enough to make you pause if you like the Rams?
Of course, because of what you guys have been saying. But like the thing that I can't get over is that like Jimmy is dealing with like 3 different injuries. I think he's a subpar quarterback even when healthy. And then we just saw with the Rams defensively, their defensive line did to Tom Brady. Tom Brady was under pressure on 35% of his dropbacks. Yeah. Coming into that game, he was the most protected quarterback in the league. He was under pressure on average.
And he had 2 injured offensive linemen, so it makes sense why.
No, I know that.
And
but
now you're going against a good O-line.
Yes, but we're talking about 2 of the better defensive linemen in the game going against an already injured Jimmy Garoppolo. That's where I get paused. And how many times in that game did Jimmy Garoppolo become this close to throwing a pick 6?
Oh, yeah.
You can get away with that.
5.
He got away with that with the Packers. You are not going to get away from that from the Rams. That is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's where I brought this up to Julian. If you want to get a little, spicy, Rams first touchdown is 35-1.
Dave loves these.
First touchdown for LA Rams. Yeah.
Defensive touchdown?
35-1. Plus 550 for any time. I'll take both. I'll take both. Stafford, if you like that too. Stafford threw the most pick 6s in the league this year. 4. He threw 4 of them. Pick 6s. That was the most in the league.
What's San Francisco's price?
35-1 first touchdown plus 600 for any time.
Boy.
So if you want to get a little sloppy.
I mean, they got a block punt for a touchdown.
Yeah. Anytime
touchdown.
Yep.
It's possible. I think it's very possible. That won't do well for the under. That's that's the under killer.
Yeah.
When you get the special teams or defensive touchdown, and then you're like, oh no, there goes my total.
Yep.
Unless The offenses just don't score a touchdown other than the opening drive like they did last week in Green Bay. So, wow, that's live. That's live, Steve. I think they're live.
The only reason I do like the 3.5 though is because I like the idea that the Rams win this game first and foremost. If the 49ers are from behind, they're not going to win on the back of Jimmy Garoppolo. That's just not where it happens. They're winning these games because they're playing with the lead.
But we go back to the last week of the regular season. They were down 17-0 in the same stadium and came back and won. Normally, you're right. They're not coming back. So now I can't get that one out of my head. That's why I think that San Francisco can come back or can maybe have some adversity early.
Yep.
And, get Debo the ball a bunch of different ways. I mean, his props over got to be a play. As long as he's healthy, he is going to be the difference maker for their offense. Now, obviously, they got to get to Stafford. But they can't. They don't blitz him. They played him twice. They never blitz him. B. Howe had some great stats, Jules, were on Monday when we did Game Within the Game and told me all these numbers. And he said they don't blitz him. And they sit back in coverage and can cause that pick to happen. I don't know. It's just, I hope the games, believe me, between both games, I hope we get one half as good as Buffalo, Kansas City.
Oh yeah.
This will be the week that they're duds, right? Leading to the Super Bowl. We'll get a blowout in the first game, unfortunately, and then we'll get just a dud, 13-7 boring defensive game in the second game. I hope I'm
wrong. One last prop before we start to wrap up here, unless we have any other thoughts. I'm looking at some of these passing ones. Jimmy G's pass attempts is set at 30.5. He threw 32 against the Rams in the regular season finale, but that includes overtime.
Yep.
So you're going to assume we don't get overtime here, although we probably do. So that was 32. The two postseason games, they just don't want him to throw. It's 25 against Dallas and 19 against Green Bay.
Oh, my.
So 30.5, it feels like the only way that goes over, minus 130 to the under. It's not even money for the over, so it's been getting bet. But that's a bit as long as the Niners come out and play, either get a lead or stay in the game, they're going to stick to that formula where they're running the ball. Deep, get Debo involved running the ball, Mitchell. So that's a loser if what happens against the Rams happened and you go down 17-0. That's how you lose the prop. And it still took overtime to lose it.
Right.
So I think my favorite prop in this game is Jimmy under 30.5 pass attempts, because I do think the Niners are going to be in this game.
231.5 is his total.
Yeah, I just looked at that too.
I mean,
playoffs, 172, 131.
How does he go over 231.5?
Right.
He goes over 231.5 by doing what he did last time to the Rams and throwing for 316. And I don't know this.
But there were two big plays in that game. Like Debo took 160 yards, I think, on that in that game, right?
That's how. I'm surprised by this Tennessee one, a close game, only 17-20, week 16, that Christmas week one. Jimmy G threw the ball 35 times and had 322 yards in a 17-20 game. That's kind of out of character.
How about his longest completion, 36.5? This might be one of those where you just play a lot of those unders.
See, that's a Debo. That's where I would get worried. That's where I would get nervous about that. Like he probably will have one of those like cheap ones like that. It's like I wouldn't even want to touch it because if he's not hitting Debo, he's not hitting that total period, right? But if he does hit Debo, forget it. That's where you crumble up that ticket and you're tossing it aside.
What's the number on Jimmy G?
For which one?
Long pass?
36.5.
36.5. All right. Let me just say this before we get out of it. This is getting real cute. What if we're just talking. What if you play the under 36.5 long pass attempt on Jimmy G and you play the over 21.5 long reception for Debo? If Debo does rip one off that goes over 36.5, you split and go 1-1. If Debo catches one anything between 22 and 35,
you've middled it.
You've middled it. As I said, I'm putting myself in boxes in windows this weekend.
That is.
I want to make myself squirm and feel uncomfortable.
I don't want to sweat that. That sounds horrible.
I love it. I don't like it. I love it. The middle opportunities, I love. I do it when I do the in-game. I love. That's a skill shot. We call that a skill shot. And listen, you sometimes you got to take your shot like that. You like to be in those boxes. The sun is set on the other side for the shot. You look great coming out of that angelic look and everything. Why not? This is the walk-off. This is, the Super Bowl's the only one left. You could cut this clip and play it for 8 months. I did this. I had under Jimmy G 36.5, but I had Debo 21.5. He catches a 28-yard longest reception, and you walk it off, Jules. I love that.
The alternative is that Jimmy G throws a bomb to Brandon Ayuk and you lose everything. We don't need to think about that. That would never happen.
But no, forget that. Well, yeah. I mean, Cooper Kupp, like you just bet everything over Cooper Kupp. I mean, what at this point in this, have you guys ever seen anything like this? Everybody knows he's getting the ball.
Yeah.
The success of the team, well, I mean, unless they run the ball for 300 yards, but he's going to get the ball. Everyone in the stadium knows it. Everybody on the other sideline knows it. And everybody bets his props over. It goes over every week except one. And then it was the week that they did run for 300 yards and they gave him one token drive to just get him, some work. He got 62 yards or whatever he got. He got the touchdown. But this is Cooper Kupp's crowning moment, is it not? He's got to go over everything, right?
That week 19 against the Cardinals where he got 61 yards was the best thing that could have happened for his prop last week because that started to get bet down.
Yeah.
I think it closed at 98.5.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there laughing because I'm like, okay, you think that's going to happen again? And then what happens? 9 catches, 183 yards. Yeah. One of the easiest overs you can get other than Mahomes rushing yards last week.
He needed that game-winning reception to go over his 8.5 receptions.
Yes,
he was under on receptions until he caught the bomb for the game. Now, if that doesn't happen, the game goes to overtime and he still probably gets there. Unless Brady gets the ball and wins the game, who knows, which usually happens.
Whoa, I don't want to talk about that overtime rule, please. Everyone else is talking about that overtime rule.
Here's the easy way to fix the overtime. It's the least hot take ever.
Oh, let's go.
You just play it like every other sport. What do you do when basketball goes to overtime?
You play a full
5
quarter.
minutes on the clock and play. What do you do if it's tied at the end of the 5 minutes? You play it again.
Genius.
It's the most simple thing in the world. You just treat it like normal sports. You play overtime. You put time on the clock. You play overtime. And if it's tied at the end of overtime, you go to double overtime.
Jeez.
Speaking of time, I think it's time to wrap.
Yes.
Good.
This is where you give a best bet. My best bet is, I told you I've middled myself with Kansas City winnings, but I have to give one bet. If it's one bet, it's tease Kansas City to 1, San Francisco to 9.5. Steve?
Taking Bengals.
Bengals plus 7. Dave?
Yep. Oh, man. Steve took my best bet. I like the
Bengals.
Fine.
That's fine. That's fine.
No. We'll branch out. We like the Bengals on the side. I'll go over in the Bengals and the Chiefs. How about that? I like under the second game, but the numbers moved a little bit. We still get the same number. Let's go over 54 in the Bengals and the Chiefs.
Fair enough. That's a podcast. Dave Sharapan. You can find him on Twitter at sportsbookconsig. You can find him around Las Vegas wearing DraftKings sportsbook lids. And Joe Burrow glasses. You mentioned the Game Within the Game. That is a podcast presented by DraftKings.
Yes.
That you can hear with Brad Howe. You are on it on Mondays. I am on it on Thursdays. I am about to go record it with him pretty much when we're done here. You also have a lot more going on. So why don't you tell the people where they can find your work? You got a new show going on with Matt Peralt, another Boston guy.
Yeah, believe me. I mean, I can't believe this Boston-Pittsburgh kind of connection that's happened in my life now. Bostonian versus the Book, Monday through Friday from 10 to approximately 11:15 every day, Pacific. So that's 1 to 2:15 Eastern. It's available on YouTube. It's available wherever you get podcasts. We do that daily. Also daily on Sports Grid and Sirius XM Radio, channel 159. We're doing in-game live on there. Then my own podcast is called Cash Considerations. We do that every week. That's available wherever you get podcasts. And 8 in the Box with Brad Howe every week, where we talk about football. And we do that. In addition to who knows what else. I mean, baseball's got to start. We got all that stuff, getting stuff in line for Super Bowl, March Madness, all this other crap. But thank you, boys, for calling me today, getting me involved in this, warming me up for Peralt, another Boston guy. Gotta go talk about Big Papi getting in the Hall of Fame and everything else. Good stuff. Really good.
You know, all three of us were on MLB Network this season. All of us. We're all in MLB Network, you know.
And,
I was Steve's vacation fill-in. I don't know if you want me spewing out baseball numbers on a consistent basis, because stats are for nerds, baseball is for nerds, but I do my best.
You're gonna send me out like that? Stats are for nerds and baseball's for nerds?
Yep.
Unbelievable. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. I guess that's a podcast. Steve, anything else to add?
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
No. All right. That's Unreasonable Odds. We're back on Tuesday. We'll have Johnny Edlow, director of DraftKings Sportsbook, on to go over the championship games, to look forward very early at the Super Bowl, and then Super Bowl week. We have some big things planned, so we'll do plenty of chatter for there. Steve Buchanan, Dave Sharapan, Julian Edlow. That's Unreasonable Odds. Good luck this weekend, everybody.